I am Dr. Kurt Woeller for Integrative Medicine Academy. The title of this short video is Advanced OAT Information, that is Organic Acids Test Information, specifically looking at the amino acid metabolites and low values. So under the amino acid metabolite section of really any organic acid test, it's important to understand what these markers are and what their significance is when things are elevated. So here is a typical screenshot or section on an organic acid test. This comes from Great Plains Lab. And it's not uncommon, in fact, it's most common to find values that are low, so they register as zeros. All of these markers are linked to what are called inborn errors of metabolism. These are genetic disorders that are only significant when the values are elevated. Some of these genetic disorders are quite rare. So again, any organic acid test on the market will have some of these markers or many of these markers, and they're only significant when high, and usually from a genetic standpoint, quite elevated. Every once in a while, you might see a marker that is slightly elevated, like let's say phenolactic or phenylpyruvic. It might be just a few points over the reference range, and that could just be some sort of interference factor that might be occurring because of bacterial or fungal toxins, for example. These are not linked to amino acid deficiencies. Okay, so that's really critical. So again, it's most common to actually see normal or low normal amino acid metabolites on this section of the test. And so low values indicate the absence of a genetic disease of specific amino acid metabolism. Okay, so they're only relevant when elevated. And again, minor elevations can be associated with various things. It could be nutritional deficiencies. It could be an interference factor from certain chemicals, maybe genetic variants, but not manifesting as a disease. So again, low values are not associated with inadequate protein intake and have no proven link to specific amino acid deficiencies. Now, when you look at the amino acid metabolite section, the section, if there are going to be any elevated markers, it usually occurs within these 5 specific amino acid metabolites. So 2-hydroxyisovaleric, 2-oxoisovaleric, 3-methyl-2-oxovaleric, 2-hydroxyisocaproic, and 2-oxoisocaproic acid. And why that's significant is that they're often elevated in states of lactic acidosis, sometimes ketosis, or certain vitamin deficiencies. Where many of these markers are linked to from a biochemical standpoint are to a specific enzyme complex called branched-chain alpha-ketoacid dehydrogenase. And you'll notice that this branched-chain alpha-ketoacid dehydrogenase complex is actually linked to 3 different amino acids, leucine, isoleucine, and valine. And as we follow these down, they will either convert into acetyl coenzyme A or propionyl coenzyme A, which becomes succinyl coenzyme A. And so the acetyl coenzyme A or the succinyl coenzyme A will enter the Krebs cycle. And so this is the entry point mostly for amino acids within the Krebs cycle to produce ATP. What's important to understand is that this enzyme complex is dependent on these various nutrients. Thiamine pretty much being the rate limiting step, but coenzyme A, flavin adenine dinucleotide, so flavin A is linked to B5, FAD is linked to B2, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide is linked to B3, and then of course we've got lipoic acid and magnesium. So deficiencies in these could affect the branched-chain alpha-ketoacid dehydrogenase that would affect things downstream from a mitochondrial standpoint. Okay, so it's an enzyme complex. So alpha-ketoacid dehydrogenase is an enzyme complex that's dependent on these various nutrients. if you look deeper, there's another important enzyme complex called pyruvate dehydrogenase. And pyruvate dehydrogenase is what converts pyruvic acid into acetyl coenzyme A. Now, pyruvic acid occurs through glucose metabolism linked to glycolysis. So one molecule of glucose gets converted into 2 molecules of pyruvic acid. And it's a complex because it has different components that work in unison to convert pyruvic acid to acetyl coenzyme A. And so each one of these components, E1, E2, E3, is linked to different nutrients that are associated with this enzyme complex. So pyruvate dehydrogenase is really important. Here we have the conversion of pyruvate to acetyl coenzyme A, and then of course that enters the Krebs cycle at step 1. Another important enzyme in Krebs cycle activity is the alpha-ketoglutarate dehydrogenase. It's the same dehydrogenase complex, that pyruvate dehydrogenase, and that the branched chain ketoacid dehydrogenase is. So deficiencies here could affect the function of pyruvate dehydrogenase just as well as it could affect alpha-ketoglutarate acid dehydrogenase, just like it could affect the ketoacid dehydrogenase that's linked to leucine, isoleucine, and valine. Now, again, there are disease states that could be associated with this, but from a functional medicine standpoint, if we start inhibiting the function of these dehydrogenase complexes, it's going to overall affect the function of the mitochondria and then downstream production of ATP. When you look at the chemistry of these dehydrogenases, what you'll also appreciate is that they are vulnerable to different toxins. So chemical toxins, heavy metal toxins can inhibit their function. So the organic acid test is a very important test in clinical practice because it provides an insight into disorders of amino acid metabolism, disorders of mitochondrial function, and when you dive a little bit deeper and understand some of the chemistry or biochemistry behind it and the nutritional cofactors that are needed for the function of these enzymes, it gives you a deeper insight too from a nutritional standpoint with regards to integrative approaches for patients with different types of chronic health problems. All of this and more we get into in great detail in our Advanced OAT Mastery course through Integrative Medicine Academy. This course is dedicated to going over every single marker on the organic acid test at a very in-depth level. This course also provides insight into other organic acid tests on the market because there's a lot of blending of these tests, I should say, or there's a lot of crossover with some of the markers, but some other tests will have different markers. And so you'll come away from this course with not only being very competent and confident in interpreting the Great Plains OAT, but also other organic acid tests from other companies. Now, this course is always available for purchase through Integrative Medicine Academy. You can also go to advancedoatmasterycourse.com for updates for new versions of the course, which are presented and come out quite frequently. So for more information, go to advancedoatmasterycourse.com. If you are a healthcare practitioner, whether you're an MD, a DO, a chiropractor, acupuncture, a naturopathic doctor, nutritionist, health coach, and you are working with clients or patients, then we have a website, which is a membership site called Functional Medicine Clinical Rounds. And myself, Dr. Woeller, my partner, Dr. Tregatella, can provide one-on-one lab consults for you. We consult with practitioners, just going over lab testing, giving our insights, case presentations, clinical troubleshooting, etc. We do have some education material on this site as well that is added on a continual basis, and a whole archive of videos and downloadable documents for your use in clinical practice, including the Functional Medicine Clinical Rounds clinical data sheets. These are one-page PDF documents that you can download that are snapshots of different lab testing or certain markers or clinical pearls. And there's a whole library of these within the website that comes with membership to this particular website. So for more information, you can go to functionalmedicineclinicalrounds.com. If you would like more information about some of our mastery courses through Integrative Medicine Academy, you can go to integratedmedicineacademy.com, or you can email us at integratedmedicineacademy@gmail.com. Again, I'm Dr. Kurt Woeller for Integrative Medicine Academy. Thank you.